Who's the most popular fictional character of all time? Well, according to popularity polls on websites like Ranker, it typically rotates between Superman, Batman, and Spider-Man, with Spider-Man recently holding the #1 spot and having one of the highest favoritism ratings. But if we're considering the past 50 to 100 years, Sherlock Holmes actually ranks above them because he's the most portrayed character in film and television history. Goku has one of the highest non-Western recognition scores in the world, though Hello Kitty, specifically Kitty White, is rapidly trending upwards and has a chance to ultimately overtake all of the other previously mentioned characters. Mario is the most popular video game character of all time, with Pikachu dragging slightly behind him, but all of this doesn't matter because according to multiple global brand studies by YouGov and Statista, Mickey Mouse is by far the most popular character of all time with over a 95% global recognition rate. And just to put this into full perspective, Jesus Christ's all-time recognition rate is estimated to be around 97%, meaning basically as many people know Jesus as they do Mickey Mouse. That's crazy. These are the strangest celebrity addictions. So Katy Perry is addicted to flossing and keeps dozens of floss picks on her person at all times to ensure that she always has clean teeth, while Jessica Simpson only brushes her teeth every other day as she claims that it makes her teeth too slippery. Megan Fox is afraid of flying and can only board a plane if she's listening to Britney Spears in order to comfort her. Speaking of which, Britney Spears is apparently addicted to chewing on ice for comfort. David Beckham has extreme symmetry OCD, where everything in his house must be perfectly aligned or in even pairs. He even does this in hotels, and it's reported if he finds 3 cans of soda in his mini fridge, he'll throw one out so that the count is even. Kit Harington has a weird superstition where he scratches his manhood every time he sees an ambulance, while James McAvoy yells "White Rabbit" at midnight on the 1st of every month. Heidi Klum carries a bag of her baby teeth as she believes it gives her good luck during her modeling jobs. And finally, Naomi Campbell does a full chemical scrub of every plane seat that she sits on, bringing surgical gloves and heavy-duty disinfectant wipes. Honestly, I get that. These are products that were banned after people died. So lawn darts were banned in 1988 after several people died from being struck in the head with the metal spikes. Buckyballs, which were high-powered desk magnets, were also permanently banned in 2014, following children eating 2 of them and having it crush their intestinal walls, killing at least one of them. Drop-side cribs are banned in the United States after at least 32 deaths were linked to the faulty design mechanism that had toddlers trapped and suffocating. Similarly, the Fisher-Price Rock and Play sleeper was linked to over 100 infant deaths after babies rolled over and suffocated, leading to a general ban on all incline sleepers. Better Homes and Garden had an aromatherapy spray that was banned after it was found to contain deadly bacteria that killed 2 people, including a child, from the contamination. Konjac mini jelly cups were small gel candies that were served in a suction cup that led to many children dying from the choking hazard. And finally, glass clackers, which involved 2 heavy glass spheres colliding to each other on a string, were banned in the 1970s after they shattered and sent glass shards into children's faces. So now you know. Do you know these Gen Alpha YouTubers? Let's see where we lie. Oh, that's Brody. I know Brody. Shout out. Cool. Here we go. I have no idea. Jules LeBlanc. You know what? That sounds familiar. Okay. I don't even have a guess. Biggie Norris. All right. Shout out Biggie. No idea. Peyton DeLue. Okay. I know her. I've seen her videos. Sophie something. I have no idea the last name, but Sophie Manassian. Okay. No clue. Casa D. Parker. All right. Primer. This is impossible now. No, I have no idea. Navy Grace Nelson. All right. Lily Ann Nelson. Okay, are they related? And I have no idea who this is. How old is this person? Posey LeBrant. Okay. These are good things that were done by terrible people. So Adolf Hitler was extremely anti-smoking and led public health campaigns in Germany, including some of the first large-scale studies linking smoking to cancer. He also created the Autobahn, which inspired the US to create the interstate highway system that we use today. Mao Zedong created the Barefoot Doctors Program, which sent over 1 million healthcare workers to the countryside, which in turn contributed to life expectancy nearly doubling and increased literacy rates. Mussolini signed a treaty with the Vatican, which essentially ended the war between Italy and the Pope, which had been tense for 60 years, improving religious relations. Hirohito was a well-educated marine biologist that discovered many species of marine life and published scientific articles that contribute to botany. And Idi Amin was surprisingly a strong women's rights advocate and appointed female ambassadors and high court judges. And finally, Gaddafi in Libya created the world's largest irrigation project called the Great Man-Made River, which provided fresh water to the country and made desert regions habitable for thousands of people. Even a broken clock. I spent $1,000 on a movie ticket to see if it was worth it. So there's a theater in New York City called Metro Private Cinema, in which you can rent out an entire private suite to watch any movie of your choice, complete with fine dining and amenities that you typically don't find in your standard theater. The movie theater lobby is actually just a bar, and in the back is your private suite. When you walk in, you're met with a welcome drink and endless bottles of wine and beverages, alongside a personal server who facilitates your 3-course meal before starting the movie. You can control things like the temperature, you can play ambient music on a record player, and they even give you these ultra soft blankets that you can use if you're cold. You sit on these couches for the meal, and then after finishing the entrees, and desserts, you can sit in these classic reclining heated seats to watch the actual movie. There's only one preview, so it goes directly into the movie afterwards, and then you're free to just move around and talk if you'd like, as well as request additional food, drinks, popcorn, or basically anything else where you enjoy a pretty sizable private screen to watch whatever it is that you're watching. So, is it worth it? I mean, if you're splitting with 10 other people, maybe, otherwise definitely not. Very cool though. These are the craziest special perks that you can get at places. So McDonald's offers a McGold card, which is free McDonald's for life. Every year they run a season of sharing promotion that gives you an entry to get one. Similarly, Chipotle has a celebrity card that superfans can apply for through LinkedIn applications that give you one free meal every single day for a year. If you spend more than $50,000 per year on Delta flights, you'll be invited to Delta 360, which is a 24/7 private concierge that provides for you a private Porsche to drive between gates. Crazier than this though is the Amex Black card, which you can access after spending over $400,000 per year on their platinum card. With this, you get a 24/7 concierge that can do anything from buying your Christmas presents to finding rare sold-out items. Chick-fil-A offers a signature member tier for customers who spend over $1,000 per year that includes an all-access tour of their Atlanta office and surprise swag. And finally, Sephora's Rogue tier allows you to have a personal assistant for every time you visit, and after-hour shopping access that you can apparently get by spending over $1,000 in a calendar year. Pretty cool, right? Is it possible to get a full workout in a Dick's? So my goal was to prove that you don't need a gym membership and can only use the on-floor items at a Dick's to burn 150 calories inside of an hour. And so I started in the weights section, which had tons of dumbbells and free weights available to use, and so I opted for a biceps workout by doing various sets of curls with some of the on-floor weights. Afterwards, I tried a machine, but unfortunately it was locked, and so instead I found a barbell and bumper plates to set up for some deadlifts. Here I slowly increased the weight and was able to bang out 4 sets of deadlifts one after the other right on the store floor. After this, I decided to do cardio, and so I went over to the treadmills, which were also locked, but I was able to ask for the key to try them out, and after receiving it, I was able to do an entire cardio workout, increasing the speed all the way up to a full sprint until I was essentially at my calorie goal. But I still needed to burn a few more, and so I decided to finish things at the putting green to sink a few putts to get me across the line, and while I unfortunately didn't sink my shots, I did ultimately get over the 150 calorie mark, proving that you can, in fact, get a full workout using only Dick's. I pretended to be a wax figure to see if anybody would notice. So I went to the New Jersey Hall of Fame and found a roped off area where I decided to stand for 20 minutes pretending to be a wax figure. I threw on sunglasses to ensure that I wouldn't blink, and I printed out a biography about myself that I put on a plaque in front of me to add to the realism. Now I started with a basic pose, and I was surprised with how still I was able to be, with everybody walking by genuinely confused as to if I was real or not. They would stay for what felt like hours just staring at me, waiting for me to breathe or make any movement. Luckily though, I locked in and I was able to convince basically everybody that I was wax. So after successfully fooling people for 5 to 10 minutes, I decided to switch up my pose to this next one, but it was more of the same. But this time they were seriously challenging me, staying there for another 5 minutes and getting really close trying to detect my movement, but again, I was able to stay still. After things cleared out, I took a breather because I hadn't breathed properly in like 20 minutes, and I went back out there for one final pose, and once again, despite many people walking by, I don't think a single person detected that I was a real person. I bought a $3,000 AI stroller to see if it actually worked. So I found this stroller online that uses sensors and AI to offer a hands-free stroller experience for parents, and so of course I had to get it so I could run it through some tests using my fake baby. First off was the Rock My Baby mode, in which it rocks your baby back and forth, and this worked well, offering 3 different speeds. You're also able to use the built-in speaker, so I was blasting Baby Shark while my fake kid was rocking. The next test was for their push assist feature, which basically pushes the stroller for you, and this was actually cool, pushing the weight of the stroller without me applying any force whatsoever. From here I tried the hands-free mode, in which the stroller would move without me, and so long as I was staying close to it, my baby was in fact being pushed by AI, and would even stop and activate the brakes when it detected me far away. And then for my final test, I wanted to see if this could detect barriers, and so I abandoned my stroller right before a concrete slab to see if it would break right before, but it didn't. And then I ultimately did it near a ledge to see what would happen there, and unfortunately, my baby went flying. Otherwise though, really cool product. How much sugar can you get in a single drink? So the daily recommended limit for sugar is 30 grams, and I wanted to see if I could get a week's worth of sugar from a single iced coffee from Dunkin'. To do this, I would need about 20 pumps of liquid cane sugar in my iced coffee from Dunkin', which translates to about 200 grams of sugar, which also happens to be the amount that health organizations warn against consuming quickly, as it can apparently cause acute physical reactions. When I pulled up though, I asked for 50 pumps because I wanted to set the bar high, and I was ultimately able to negotiate my way to 15. But when I got to the window, the worker actually told me to put in a few extra for good measure. And after paying, I took a look at this thing, and it certainly looked like there was over 20 pumps of liquid cane sugar in that, because about 20% of the drink was transparent from the insane amounts of sugar pumps in it. I pulled over and I wanted to give it a pure sip just to see what it tasted like, and as expected, this thing was repulsive, and it was like shoving a cup of raw sugar down your throat. Even upon mixing it, the liquid sugar wouldn't fully dissolve, so I think about 20 pumps of liquid cane sugar seems to be the chemical limit for a drink. So now you know. What is the most amount of cereal that you can buy at Target? So previously I purchased 40 boxes of cereal because it was thought to trigger a ban, but after it didn't, I decided to take it up a notch by literally clearing out an entire cereal section to see if they would allow it. When I got to the aisle, I found a good section to clear and slowly loaded my cart with dozens of boxes of different kinds of cereals until after about 20 minutes when I gathered around 150 boxes in my multiple carts. I brought this over to the register, expecting to get shut down, but the cashier was actually really sweet and incredibly patient despite the fact that there was a seemingly endless amount of cereal being purchased. purchased. Even the people behind me were surprisingly okay with the 20-minute cereal checkout process. The grand total for all this cereal was around $500, and I was walking out with now 3 full carts worth of cereal with asset protection not even batting an eye. This is what 150 boxes of cereal looks like loaded up in a car, and honestly I didn't have any use for the cereal afterwards, so I decided to just give it all away. But now you know you can order an entire aisle of cereal if your heart desires. I secretly worked as a janitor to see if anybody would notice. So to do this, I purchased a janitor costume online, as well as a mop and a mop bucket, and I hit my local mall to see what I could get away with. I started by performing some janitorial duties like mopping the floor and cleaning up trash, making sure to say hi to my fellow mall employees who didn't seem to realize that I was a fake. I wanted to push things further though, and so I snuck into a store that was being renovated, sweeping my way through the main floor into the back rooms, and at this point the janitor costume felt like a cheat code to do whatever I want. And so to really test this further, I wanted to see if my outfit would grant me a mall employee discount. And so I went to a Starbucks and asked for it, and I was actually able to get one, which was kind of crazy. Afterwards, I continued cleaning, going into different stores, and I actually had a few people tell me thank you for your service, which was really nice to hear. But I wasn't actually doing anything to deserve that, and so I decided to find an actual nearby janitor and retire right in front of them, giving them some money to finish up the tasks I left, and got out of my fit, returning to being a normal pedestrian. It was fun though, so shout out to the custodians out there. I tried calling numbers from a 60-year-old phone book. So I bought this California phone book from 1967 with thousands of commercial and residential phone numbers listed on it, and I wanted to see if it still worked. Starting with this Chevrolet advertisement, I called the number and it immediately hung up, likely out of service, so I next called this funeral chapel, and it turns out it's still actually in service and runs cremation services out of the same address. There's a hotel listed on it as well that unfortunately the phone number didn't work for, but I googled this place afterwards and it still exists under the same name. From here I called a bunch of the other businesses listed, like some drive-ins, contractors, and even horses for sale, but not much success here, though some churches did end up answering. So then I decided to call up a few of the residential phone numbers on the directory, and I called about 15 different people, but none of them answered, and a lot of the lines were just no longer in service, likely because the people aren't alive anymore. And just when I was about to end my pursuit, I got a response from a lovely lady named Barbara. So Barbara, if you're watching this, it was a pleasure talking to you, and thank you for answering my call. Very cool. This is what different school subjects look like around the world. So chess is a mandatory subject in Armenian schools for children aged 6 to 8, as they reason it to be a key tool for developing independent strategic thinking. Armenia also requires folk dance in its curriculum so that children can master the country's cultural traditions and customs. In Bhutan, the national education system includes happiness studies, including how to build strong relationships and listen to their hearts. Germany and Finland have begun introducing this as well in some of their schools. Similarly, Denmark has empathy classes for all school children, which they talk about emotions, conflict, and kindness. Japan has mandatory cleaning time in school, in which students spend about 20 minutes per day cleaning classrooms, hallways, and restrooms so they can learn responsibility and caring for shared spaces. India introduced yoga and meditation as part of their physical education program to promote discipline and self-control. And finally, France has begun implementing taste education classes into its national curriculum, in which students learn to identify flavors and textures, to analyze food better, and to form better eating habits. Sign me up. How long can you leave a drink in a display fridge before somebody notices? So to test this, I went into the appliance section at Lowe's and found a random refrigerator that I placed an Olipop in. I also threw a shirt into one of the washer dryers to see if that would stay in there as well. And then I left the store and decided to go back 24 hours later, and I was very confident that both of these items would be gone, but after checking both the fridge and the washer, both of my items were still there. And so I decided to wait another 2 days, making it now 72 hours since I initially put the items in their display cases. And when I arrived, I beelined for the dryer, fully expecting it not to be there, but I was surprised to still see it there 3 full days later. But surely they took the drink out of the fridge, right? Well, I walked over there to see if my Olipop was in there, and lo and behold, inside was my soda, completely deformed, because I actually left it in the freezer actually, but completely untouched and left in the exact place where I left it 72 hours prior. I'll check back in another week, but so far it's been 3 days and not a single person has noticed either item in the display cases. I wonder how often they check that. I tested every Mr. Beast food product. So Mr. Beast has dozens of business lines associated with his brand, with many coming from food ranging from Feastables to Lunchly and everything in between. And so I started with his beef jerky, which he has in collaboration with Jack Links, and I was actually really surprised with how solid this tasted, as it was basically just a mini Slim Jim. 8 out of 10. Next up was his chocolate protein milk, which had over 400 calories and not that much protein to show for it, but I was receptive to the taste, but unfortunately upon sipping it, that was the worst protein shake I've had in my entire life. 0 out of 10. Feastables came next, and I got a birthday cake flavor one to switch things up from the original, and this was a bad idea because I was also not a fan of this, as it tasted a bit chalky and bland. 3 out of 10. From here I tried the turkey and cheese Lunchly, and I've had the other flavors before and knew it to be solid, and that trend continued here because it was definitely one of my favorite items I tried. 8 out of 10. Which then just left me with the Mr. Beast Reese's cup, which had peanut butter in the chocolate, and I'm happy to report that while not as good as Reese's, it was fairly satisfying and overall a good piece of chocolate. 8 out of 10, and now you know. I tested an AI car. It's called Zoox, and it's a driverless robo-taxi owned by Amazon that was created to compete with Waymo and Tesla, but this one is different in that it comes in this unique pod shape and it has face-to-face seating arrangements. And so I called one through their app and waited 45 minutes for mine to show up. When it eventually arrived, you enter the car by entering a unique code that's given through the app, then you can proceed in and start your ride. Now the car is equipped with AI-powered sensors and cameras all around you to ensure that your seatbelt is on and you're complying with safety standards, and once the car confirms that, your ride can begin. You have a touchpad to control things like music and climate, and the ride itself is pretty smooth smooth with smart self-driving capabilities and a lot of great views because of the window design. And all was going great until we ran into emergency vehicles and road closures around a stadium area, and that's when the robotaxi fell apart because it actually had no idea what to do in that situation, and not only caused a bunch of backed up traffic, but also had to emergency drop me off on the side of the road because of how confused it was. So cool concept, but not perfect yet. What is the most popular movie of all time? So in terms of commercial success, Avatar technically is the most popular with $2.9 billion at the box office, though much of this comes from 3D upcharges and high ticket prices. Also, when adjusting for inflation, the most successful box office movie of all time technically is Gone with the Wind, which has grossed $4.4 billion. Popularity can also be measured by total viewership over time though, and in that case, The Lion King is expected to have been seen by 2.1 billion people from high VHS sales and worldwide appeal. But if that's the case, there's certain international movies like Legend of the White Snake in China that apparently sold 300 million tickets during release alone. And in India, there's a movie called Sholay, which apparently trumps even that in terms of total footfalls. But even with that considered, the most popular movie of all time is Titanic, which is estimated to have been viewed 3 billion times, having sold 400 million tickets upon release, and has been broadcasted worldwide for 30 years since to billions of people putting it on top. Pretty cool, right? How endless is endless pasta at Olive Garden? So Olive Garden famously has their never-ending pasta bowls for $13.99, so to truly test if it's unlimited, I hired a top-ranked competitive eater, Crazy Legs, to see how many he can eat in a single sitting. The first bowl was a massive plate, but he took it down relatively quickly, and then every subsequent bowl after that was a smaller portion, which they do to ensure that you don't waste food. But Crazy Legs had no problem with that and crushed plates 2, 3, and 4 without feeling anything. It continued on and was more the same, crushing plates 5 and 6, officially having every pasta shape and sauce they had to offer, but the goal was to get cut off or to break a record, so he continued further. So then plates 7 and 8 came out, and it was around then when he started to feel it, but we wanted to reach the double digits since, according to our waitress, that was the most that anybody has ever done in a single sitting. And so he finished the 9th, and then he ordered his 10th and final bowl of pasta, which he took down, claiming then the title for the most endless pasta bowls in 1 hour, and proving that the endless pasta at Olive Garden is truly endless. So now you know. I tried the most dangerous fast food items. Starting off with McDonald's coffee, which in 1992 was sued for being served too hot and gave somebody third-degree burns. Upon receiving it, I noticed it was plastered with caution signs all over, and interestingly, they seem to have cooled it off a bit because I was able to sip it with no problem. Dunkin' also had complaints of burns with their coffee, but their warnings were more subtle, though the coffee was arguably hotter. Panera used to serve a charged lemonade with 400 milligrams of caffeine that allegedly led to fatal cardiac arrests. When I went to get that, they were discontinued though, and the only caffeine cold drink was their iced tea, which was fine. Wendy's and Taco Bell had E. coli breakouts in the past 15 years due to their romaine lettuce that hospitalized dozens of people, so I had to taste their shredded lettuce, and I'm happy to report that it's been a few days and I survived. The spiciest fast food item period is apparently Taco Bell's Diablo sauce, which made people sick, but it was fine for me. But then I had the most dangerous item of them all, which is Taco Bell's Mexican pizza sauce because, well, their Mexican pizza is disgusting. Very cool. These are things that have only been found once. So there's a physically impossible quasi-crystal found from a meteorite fragment following a Soviet nuclear test that was only found that single time and never appeared again. On the animal side, the Ningu ghost monkey in the Amazon was recorded one time on a remote camera trap in Brazil and never photographed or captured again. And also the one-eyed cyclops shark found by a fisherman, which was anatomically perfect, but also never seen again. A fossil of a glass brain was found near Mount Vesuvius thanks to the extreme heating and cooling effects from the explosion that it had on nearby humans. Similarly, there's only been one fossil of the biologically immortal jellyfish found. Certain skulls like the Dragon Man skull, potentially leading to a new branch of humanity, was found one time in China, but never again, as was the Star Child skull in Mexico, which we've yet to realize its meaning, but could be aliens. And finally, the world's rarest mineral called Kuathiawite was accidentally discovered in Myanmar, but has yet to be found again or even replicated, making it priceless. Pretty cool, right? These are mascots you've never seen before. So before Ronald McDonald, McDonald's had a mascot named Speedy, who was just a chef with a burger-shaped head that was used in their earliest logo. He was actually the first widely recognized fast food mascot. Grimace also used to have an Irish uncle named Uncle O'Grimacy, who was green with a hat and carried a shillelagh. He was apparently removed because of cultural sensitivity reasons and the McDonaldland purge that happened a couple of years ago, though he actually recently returned for Shamrock Shake promos. Fido Dido is the mascot for 7-Up in Europe, Asia, and South America, though he's basically gone in the United States. At one point, we actually had Cool Spot, who even had his own video game, but he's quietly disappeared. Subway technically has a mascot that looks like this that comes out on rare occasions, as does Dunkin' called Cuppy, both of which I've actually been. The Great Root Beer is the iconic mascot for A&W in Canada and around the world, but is largely forgotten in the US. And finally, Burger King ditched the king for a bit in the 1990s to instead use a kids club, with the leading mascot being Kidvid. Pretty cool, right? Who's the most marketable celebrity in the world? Well, according to the recent rankings, it's actually F1 driver Lewis Hamilton, as his broad appeal across sports, fashion, and lifestyle puts him at number 1, but he's hardly in the most ads. Because if we're going off of sheer volume, Shaquille O'Neal has been in over 300 distinct ads over the past 10 years, working with 50 brands. Interestingly though, Flo from Progressive has technically had the most airtime of any character or celebrity, having been on Progressive insurance commercials since 2008. In terms of solely endorsement income though, and Shohei Ohtani is the most marketable, as he generates over $100 million per year from his sponsorship sponsorships, with Steph Curry right behind him for his brand-safe image and global appeal. But when combining all factors, the most marketable celebrity in the entire world by far continues to be Cristiano Ronaldo for the 10th year in a row, as his global appeal, longevity, and conversion metrics make him the dream celebrity partner for 99% of brands, especially on social media where he has over 1 billion people total who follow him. Pretty cool, right? How long could you stay at a movie theater after it closes? So to test this, I purchased a ticket to the last showing at my local AMC, which was set to end around 1:30 a.m. When I got inside the theater, there were a few people who were also watching the last showing, so we all sat there watching Project Hail Mary, good movie by the way, and when it finished, I waited for everybody to leave the theater, remaining in my seat, curious to see how long I could milk sitting there. Well, 5 minutes turned into 30 minutes, and nobody was coming by to clean the theater, so I was convinced that all the workers left and they would clean up in the morning, which meant that I was potentially trapped in the theater with no signs of anybody, not even in the projector room. And so I decided to explore around the theater a little bit to confirm this position, just in case I had missed anybody, but I couldn't find a single worker despite looking everywhere. I decided to check the doors to see if I was locked in, and that's when a worker secretly emerged out of nowhere, asking me how I liked the movie, and he told me that he was cleaning up the theaters and that it takes about 45 minutes to an hour to wrap things up after closing, so I guess that's your answer. Shout out to AMC. Can you buy an apple from Apple? So I previously purchased this Target ball and I wanted to see what other ways I can literally interact with stores. And so I started with Best Buy, where I asked the employees for their best buy and they steered me to this $700 computer that I had to purchase. After this, I went to Crumble Cookie, where I asked them to crumble my cookie and they obliged and the cookie still tasted great. From here, I hit up Target to buy a Target and they had a bunch of these and they even let you buy a shopping cart, which I ended up taking with me. From here, I went to Burger King and I asked them for the Burger King and I was served a burger that I didn't even know existed. I also asked for the McDonald's at McDonald's and I got something similar as it was a brand new menu item. I went to Dick's next and I was looking around for something phallic and ultimately I landed on butt wipes, which I thought fit the theme. And then I went to Spirit Halloween, where I wanted to purchase a spirit and I ended up actually purchasing the animatronic mascot. He's very scary. But then I had to end things at Apple, where I brought an apple with me and I tried to return it. And at first the employee considered it and brought it back to his manager, but ultimately he gave it back and said it's against store policies. So now you know. This is why fast food is getting worse. So a company called Leprino Cheese controls 85% of the cheese in the United States and provides the same exact mozzarella for Domino's, Pizza Hut, Papa John's, and Little Caesars. Sysco is the largest food supplier in the entire world, providing frozen food that is reheated by over 600,000 restaurants, bars, and other venues. So much so that many restaurants will offer the same exact item packaged differently, like molten lava cakes or spinach and artichoke dip. Lamb Weston is responsible for about 80% of the fries for companies like Popeyes, McDonald's, and Burger King. The only difference is in the cut and the oil, but otherwise the potatoes are exactly similar. Even the cheesecake you get from many sit-down chain restaurants like Red Lobster come from the Cheesecake Factory themselves, who, despite providing desserts for hundreds of chains, coincidentally is one of the only restaurants of scale that actually makes all their food in-house from scratch. So next time you go out to eat and feel unsatisfied with your food, just know you're justified because it's all frozen from the same exact place. We lost the plot. These are weird traits that can predict if you'll be successful. So if you've ever been infected with the parasite Toxoplasma gondii, you're 2 times more likely to become an entrepreneur because the parasite reduces your fear of failure and lets you increase your impulsivity. For that same reason, class clowns and troublemakers in schools have higher chances of becoming entrepreneurs. If you have baby-faced features like large eyes and a round face, you're more likely to become a high-achieving career person because you're psychologically treated more warmly. Equally interesting though is if you're ugly and have dealt with a lot of rejection, then you often have a high success predictor because of comfort with rejection. On that same note, if you have a high tolerance for physical discomfort, specifically around taking a cold shower or fasting for long hours, you're more likely to be successful. If you eat the same thing or wear the same thing every single day, you're primed for success because you've eliminated decision fatigue and you can solve problems quickly. And finally, those who practice hyperconsumption of information by multitasking, using multiple devices at once, and switching back and forth between apps are, on average, a lot smarter. Pretty cool, right? This video gets louder every second. So right now I'm probably pretty low because we put the decibels somewhere around 2 or 3, but as this goes on, I will be increasing steadily until it's probably going to be unbearable to hear. Honestly, it's probably best as we get close to like the 50-second mark that you probably scroll right past this because it's going to be a really unpleasant experience for your ears and anybody nearby who's going to tell you to turn your phone off, or if you're watching on your TV, which apparently 25% of you guys do, to turn the TV down. Now, I'm not a super loud person by any means, as I'm sure you guys know. I'm fairly monotonic and I don't really raise my voice, maybe once in a while here or there, so I'm sure it's pretty shocking at this point, 30-40 seconds in, that I'm just yelling at you right to your face. I'm assuming it's pretty unbearable at this point. It's probably very difficult to just even edit this on our end, so I'm sorry to my editor for watching this because I'm sure this is also killing your ears. But I really appreciate you guys watching. Thank you so much. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't already, and if you got through this, let me know because I'm sure I just broke a phone or some audio speaker somewhere. Alright, love you guys. I tested places 1 minute before closing. Starting with Dunkin', I wanted to see if I can get some free donuts because I know they give them away last minute before throwing them away. But unfortunately, every Dunkin' I went to, I was either too late and they had already thrown them out, or they just told me it's against store policy. After this, I went to my local Olive Garden where I wanted to see if they'd seat me despite Google hours showing them closing in 1 minute, and they happily sat me with no issues, so I ordered a simple meal and then left right before cleanup. I tried this at Walmart next, walking in at 9:59, and because of its massive size, I was able to just wander around the store past closing, going through aisles while the employees cleaned up, and I was even able to make a purchase 15 minutes after closing. From here, I went to a movie theater because I wanted to see if they'd sell me a ticket 1 minute before the movie ended, but I learned that the latest you can buy a ticket is 30 minutes after showtime, but luckily my guy bent the rules for me and sold me a Wicked ticket 1 hour in. And then I went to a Domino's trying to order a pizza 1 minute before closing, and to my surprise, they said yes with absolutely no issues. But don't try this, unless you take care of them. These are everyday things that are extremely dangerous, so be careful. So stairs are the most dangerous object in any home, with more people dying from falling down the stairs each year than firearms at over 35,000 people. Loose rugs are actually responsible for 50% of that slippage, so make sure that those are secured. Detergent pods and spray cleaners are responsible for sending a child to the emergency room once every 30 minutes. Poisoning is actually the #1 cause of home death every year, responsible for 60,000 deaths. Make sure to clean out your lint trap and your dryer, because failure to clean that has resulted in 15,000 fires every single year. Equally important are extension cords and candles, so make sure you're always conscious of those. Falling off a ladder is responsible for 300 deaths and 130,000 emergency room visits every single year. And turning the water too hot is actually responsible for 35% of burn injuries every single year. And finally, arguably the deadliest thing that we do every single day is sitting, as being too sedentary and not getting at least 5,000 steps a day can double your mortality risk. So hopefully you're not sitting or laying down while watching this. Pretty cool. I enhanced a blurry image 100 times to see what would happen. So I took this picture of me and made it blurry with the goal of seeing if AI can unblur it by upscaling and enhancing it after dozens of iterations. Now at first it beautified my face, making it look smooth and filtered, actually restoring a lot of the overall quality, but clearly missing the mark on my exact look. And so I continued on, and after about 10 more, it started manipulating my face pretty significantly, increasing the size of my nose and lightening my skin tone. 20 more enhancements and my face was getting narrower, and I was no longer identifiable in a lineup. And by 50, it started looking very crispy, and we were going backwards in terms of quality as it started to diminish. And this trend continued for the next 30 or 40, despite clearly prompting it to upscale and enhance the image, and it was getting worse and worse to the point where at 90 I could barely see a person in frame. Eventually I got to the final enhancement, curious to see how far we've come from the original image, and it ultimately spat out this, which I guess according to AI is the most enhanced version technically of myself. Pretty cool, I guess. What is the longest fast food item? Starting off with Burger King, and theirs is the original chicken sandwich, but when I received this thing, it was a lot smaller than I remembered, only coming in at 6 inches when I tested it. I think they shrunk the bread or something. At McDonald's, depending on how generous the worker is, the vanilla cone is typically the longest from tip to tip, but unfortunately mine was only 5 inches, and so their actual longest is the snack wrap, which is around 6 or 7 inches. And depending on how poorly it's wrapped, it can actually get up to 7.5 inches, which is definitely pretty big. At Wendy's, it's similar, with their grilled chicken wrap coming in slightly above 7 inches as well, probably because they use the same exact wrap as McDonald's. But bigger than this though was actually Dunkin's white cheddar and cheese bagel, which surprisingly came in at just under 9 inches when stacked against my ruler, which I thought wasn't going to be beaten until I went to Taco Bell and ordered their longest item, the chicken quesadilla, which measured from end to end winds up clocking in at 9.5 inches, officially crowning it as the longest fast food item. Congrats, quesadilla. These are animals that killed their owners. So an Australian woman had a camel as a pet, but during mating season, the camel tried to mate with her and crushed her to death under its weight, while a woman named Sandra Peevson was mauled by a pack of 9 wolf dogs that she actually raised since puppies after they challenged her position in the pack. Marius Els was a South African farmer who owned a baby hippo that he raised to be fully grown, but unfortunately one day it decided to bite Marius and drag him into the river and maul him to death. And this is actually similar to Timothy Treadwell, who spent 13 summers living amongst grizzly bears in Alaska, claiming to have befriended them and merging into their society. However, during his final trip, a rogue bear he apparently didn't befriend attacked and killed him and his girlfriend. Tilikum was a 12,000-pound orca at SeaWorld who killed 3 people, including its trainer, due to its captivity-induced psychosis, which ended up ending the orca program at SeaWorld. And finally, a New York man illegally owned a black mamba in his apartment and predictably was bit and died despite trying to immunize himself for years since the venom was too deadly. That's crazy.
কি হইছে বলতো? আর বলিস না, তোরে যে বুকিং দিছে সে তো এখন আমার পিছনে লাগছে।
দিশান ও দরজা লাগিয়ে দিছে। ও দরজা লাগিয়ে দিছে। কই যায়? কই যা?
আমরা তো বিয়েই দিয়ে দিবে বাসা থেকে।
মাম্মা লাভ স্টোরি তো শুরু করে দিলা। ভালো ভালো ভালো। মালটারে কি পড়ানো যায়?
তুই একটা কাম কর, আজকে থেকে আমি তোমার, তুমি আমার, ব্যাস ডিসিশন ফাইনাল বুকিং দিয়ে রাখলাম। ঠিক আছে? কি খবর তোমাদের, কেমন আছো তোমরা সবাই? ভালো তো না? তুমি জানো তোমায় কালকে তো কতবার বলছি।
হ্যালো, আসসালামু আলাইকুম।
ওয়ালাইকুম আসসালাম।
কি রে? এদার তুইন
মানা করতেছি।
কিছু না কিছু। আগে আপনি জানেন আমি একবার অসুস্থ হয়ে গেছিলাম, ও আমাকে রক্ত দেয়নি, আর আজকে আপনাকে রক্ত দিয়ে চিঠি লিখছে।
কালকে সারা রাত তোমার আমি কল দিচ্ছি।
সারা রাত? তাহলে আপনি শুনুন আপনার ভালোবাসার মানুষের অতীত বর্তমান।
পাগল কোন একদম ঠিক হয় ওনার ব্যথা লাগে নাই?
ব্যথা তো বেশি তুমি।
তুহিনের ব্যথা লাগছে মানে?
বন্ধু তুই চিন্তা করিস না রে, ভাবির মন ঠিকই গলে যাবে।
ভাবির মন তো ঘুরবে কিন্তু
আরে না না না,
সম্ভব না। গাড়ি ঘোড়া তো
হঠাৎ আমার বাসার নিচে কোনো জরুরি দরকার?
তুমি কি আজকে কোচিং এ যাও নাই? সুন্দর মতো যাবি, ভাবির নামটা জিজ্ঞাসি। আর শোন, ভালো মতো কথা কবে, ভাবি লাগে। খালি ফাপড় আর চাপাবাজি, এই বাদে আর কিছু পাচ্ছস?
বুকিং?
বুকিং মানে বুকিং, তুমি আমার আমি তোমার, বুকিং দিয়ে দিছি ফাইনাল।
আমাকে বুকিং দিছে মানে আমাকে কে বুকিং দিছে দোস্ত?
তোর যে আশিক আছে না, এখন তো ও আমার পিছনে লাগছে।
আমার তো অনেক ভয় লাগতেছে দোস্ত। এই যে আস্তে আস্তে সব মানুষ জানবে, তারপর আমার ফ্যামিলিকেও জানিয়ে দিবে। আর আমার
এন্ড বেস্ট অফ লাক ফর ডক্টরশিপ। আমি দোয়া করি তুমি যেন একজন ভালো ডক্টর হও।
আমার কাছে জিনের বাচ্চার নাম্বার আছে। জিনের বাচ্চা
করতে চাস নাকি ইটিস পিটিস করতে চাস? বদতমিজ। হ্যালো বন্ধু, আমার রোদে দিছস?
এই তো দিছি তো।
ঠিক মতো রোদে দিছস?
কি শুনতে চান? আমি আপনাকে ভালোবাসি?
ফোন দিয়ে যেতেছি, তুমি ফোনই ধরো না, তোমার ফোন ধরার কোনো নামই নাই। এটা কোনো কথা? তোমার ফোন ধরো না কেন?
এবারে এক্সামের প্রিপারেশন কিরকম তোদের? আমি তো খুবই এক্সাইটেড, কারণ আমার প্রিপারেশন খুবই ভালো।
জিসান দরজা খোল।
সুন্দর মতো যাবি, ভাবির নামটা জিজ্ঞাসি। আর শোন, ভালো মতো কথা কবে, ভাবি লাগে। খালি ফাপড় আর চাপাবাজি, এই বাদে আর কিছু পাচ্ছস?
বুকিং?
বুকিং মানে বুকিং, তুমি আমার আমি তোমার, বুকিং দিয়ে দিছি ফাইনাল।
আমাকে বুকিং দিছে মানে আমাকে কে বুকিং দিছে দোস্ত?
তোর যে আশিক আছে না, এখন তো ও আমার পিছনে লাগছে।
এই এই দুলাভাই সামনে থাকলে যে সালাম দিতে হয়, আপনি শিখাই নাই তোরা? কেমন আছো তুমি?
ভালো।
আমাকে জিজ্ঞেস করবো না?
রক্তটা দিবি তুই। আমি কেন রক্ত দেবো? প্রেম খরচ তুই, রক্ত। আমার বন্ধু জিসান আপনাকে অনেক ভালোবাসে ভাবি। আপনার ওর রক্ত যাওয়াটা বিধে হতে দিবেন না ভাবি।
These are songs that change their lyrics after release. So Sam Smith changed the lyric in Stay With Me from I Still Need Love Cause I'm Just a Man to I Still Need Love Baby Understand after he publicly changed his identity to non-binary. Kesha changed the lyric in TikTok from Wake Up in the Morning Feeling Like P. Diddy to now say F. P. Diddy in light of sexual abuse allegations against him. The song Let's Get It Started by the Black Eyed Peas used to be called Let's Get, which featured the exact chorus being sung, but they actually changed it after pushback on using the slur. Beyonce and Lizzo both did something similar, removing the word spaz in their songs Heated and Girls respectively for similar reasons. Taylor Swift changed the lyric on her song Better Than Revenge upon re-recording, swapping the line she's better known for the things she does on the mattress with he was a moth to a flame she was holding the matches to avoid shaming women. And finally, Green Day changed the line An American Idiot from I'm not part of a redneck agenda to I'm not part of the MAGA agenda so the band can make a political statement during their concerts. Now you know.